Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's AAC Talks. We are very pleased to welcome Juan Fernando López from Plural in Bogota, Colombia. AAC Talks is a series of virtual conversations where we invite art workers and institutions from around the world whose practice resonates with community oriented approaches. I had the pleasure of meeting Juan during my trip to Colombia while organizing the Art Intensive Bogota earlier this year. Juan's practice focuses on building bridges, creating spaces for action and sharing, and cultivating both professional and effective relationships within the communities he works with. He understands artistic practice as part of the day to day, a presence rooted in belonging and critical engagement. In today's talk, how to embed ourselves in the neighborhood's everyday routines, offers a reflection on the programs and activities that have shaped Plural as an art and cultural space for everyday life, including the mistakes, lessons, and relationships that sustain it. We are grateful to have him today with us, and we look forward to learning more about the people, practices, and forms of care that make Plural what it is. Juan, thank you so much for being here. The floor is all yours now.
Thank you very much, Mahavin, and hello to everyone. It's so nice to be here doing this talk. You know what, like when someone invites you to look back at your steps, sometimes it's hard to put it into words. So it was very nice for me also doing these slides and remembering what drives you to at this point right now. So I'm going to share with you all the photos that we've taken in some of the two programs that have give me this purpose with the art space that I run. So Plural, it's been here for 8 years, but I have to say that it was clear for me for just like in these last 4 years, like what was the purpose, the objective of Plural. So I'm gonna share with you that little bit of history. So Plural, I'm gonna give you a little context about the geography around Plural because this is like a main part of what we do here. So Plural is located in what's supposed to be the art district in Bogota, right? As you may know, in South America, the difference between rich and poor, the access of culture, it's very divided, right? So like you can see these different borders, like they're very marked. Even though they are district, it's one is supposed to be in one of the not so rich neighborhoods. Like the audience that we have is mainly people that come from the north, which is the the wealthy people, right? So for me, it was really interesting to understand why, even though we're located in this neighborhood, that it doesn't belong to the north, why we just have audience to the like coming from the north. So I'm gonna do a little glossary here. I'm gonna use some words in Spanish, but so because there's no translation, this word localidad. So localidad is a bunch of neighborhoods that we have here. So like it's something that the city does to group different neighborhoods. My localidad, it's called Barrios Unidos, let's say United Neighborhoods, and it's like the study that the case that I'm studying. And this phrase, how to embed ourselves in the neighborhood's everyday routine, it's easy to say it right now, but it was hard for me to get there, to understand what I wanted to do, right? So it was like to put it easy, it's like if you live, in Barrios Unidos, you know that you have your bakery, you know that you have your place where you do your groceries, and then you know where you take your bus. So I put myself in this idea like if I live in Barrios Unidos, in my localidad, I wake up, I take my coffee, I go to the bakery, and I know there's this place where they do art and they work, and they have like this cultural agenda that I can go every day. So that's my purpose. It's not still there. It's actually very hard, but That's my focus, and that's the grants that I apply for. They're focused on trying to make that happen. So these are few photos of like the architecture and what we have on the localidad. I don't know, some interesting facades there. The photo that you see on the right hand, it's a traditional market square that we have in Barrios Unidos. We have two market squares. This is important because we work with them several times. Maybe it was 2021 when we started to understand what we wanted to do. It was during the pandemic, right? I was in Amsterdam back then in 2020. I decided just to spend the pandemic here in Colombia with the curator back then, Andrea. We had plenty of time, we didn't see anyone. It was just the two of us. And then we decided just to take a walk and see what was happening in all these neighborhoods from the localidad. And it was nice. I mean, like, and it's huge. There's around 200,000 people in Barrios Unidos in the localidad, and there's people living here. There's also like this huge place for this huge market for car parts. We have two market squares. There's prison for women. There's theater. So it was really interesting. It was very eclectic, so to say. And then we applied this grant. It's important for me to mention these grants because all these two programs, they're just two programs. You will see all the information at the end. And Mahabin, if you allow me, like I can give you also the slides if someone's interested. We applied for this grant, and then because we weren't able to host or to have a crowd in our space, due to the sanitary conditions, we decided, okay, so how do we go to these people's minds, right? So we decided to do these 5 publications. These publications were made by 5 curators, and they invited artists to make it. And this publication, the condition was that it was addressed, like, no, it was especially made for this crowd that didn't know we didn't know their interest. We didn't know what they were doing right now. That was the population of La Localidad, like these 200,000 people. We couldn't reach this whole quantity of person, but like we did 2,500 publications. So what we wanted to do is like to create this link of what a cultural space, an art space can do, and that also telling them, hey, we're interested, that that we're here, and we want to be part of this neighborhood and this localidad. So we created these 5 books. One of them is like this huge research of the history of Barrios Unidos, how it was made. It was lovely. Then there's another publication talking about exhibitions. Another is talking about like this economic part of the arts, because in the art district there's a lot of galleries. So like we didn't want to think that there's no like this economic part of art. So it's there. Then another one talking about public space, and the other one, it was like these links between in disciplines within the arts. So we hired these guys that they were on a bike, and then we did like this huge cartography, this mapping, and see how we can make this distribution. So we found around 600 points in the whole area, and we just deliver this publication for them for free, right? So this is like the, I don't know, people posing with their books, and these are the lessons that we learn. We With these publications, we could challenge this idea of space and time. I mean, for us, it was interesting that we could start this relation with our neighborhood, with our neighbors, not in an event, and not in like in a specific time. So maybe they could read this later, or maybe it could be read not by themselves, but I don't know, some relatives or some friends, or like granddaughters or whatever. it was also important to us that we have like this kernel that put us together, right? This kernel was Barrios Unidos, something that would like this link. We live in the same neighborhood, so let's talk about this. Also, this the other another lesson that we've learned: gratuity. It doesn't mean access, because I mean, like we apply for grants and then we do these events, and even though it's for free and everybody can go in, it doesn't mean that the people go, right? Like if you don't know in your every day, you don't have like a cultural agenda or like this willing to know what's happening cultural wise, well, you don't have access. So that's something that it's on our minds daily. And one of the things that we see as negative is we have low feedback. We send these books to these people, but we didn't know what was happening there, if we actually made an impact. But it was also something that we knew, and we allowed ourselves to for this to happen. It was this first approach, so it was fine if we don't have everything under control. We have to address that in the next event. So the next year we decided, okay, let's continue to go outside and to work with different people, and then maybe to use a different strategy this time to have contact with our neighbors, right? So we invited this group of curators, and they would choose 5 shops or 5 businesses, like local businesses around la localidad. So they choose the one of the market square. This photo that you see here is the entrance of the main market square in the localidad. And the artists they work with, they put these stickers that you can see here. And these stickers, it's normally used by these huge companies that they do discounts on their products, right? So it was like this kind of, chicken pox in the market square, that it's also like the big companies making sick the local producers. And then they work with this bakery, and this bakery was like bread for all, and it was bread made like this feast of of fight. This is another local business in Barrios Unidos. It's called a tejo. Tejo is a traditional game that we have here in Colombia. It's very popular among the popular neighborhoods. As you can see, like we put these paintings of the artist. So it was also like this excuse for us to to start working with these local businesses after the pandemic, and invite the art audience to get to know what the localidad has to offer in terms of food, bakery, or many different possibilities that you can find in a localidad that hosts 200,000 people. And then that second year, that we like this idea of not doing our programs in the art space that we have, but like let's keep going. Let's go outside and see what else we have to do in these other places, right? So this is another market square. We wanted to do here a project that it was called the Arts and Cookery Meeting back then. The name has changed right now, but that was the focus. We wanted to talk about food. We wanted to talk about the history behind the food and the people who produce the food, right? Like the people from rural areas. We decided, hey, let's do this art and cookery meeting in this market square. We talked to the institution that, I mean, they run this market square, and actually it was really nice that like this have urgency of doing cultural activities within the market square. So it was really easy for us to to have this contact. But then they asked, okay, like we can give you the space so you can do your activities. It was a 3-day activities, but we want something in return, right? So we would start with this Biblioteca de Raíces, Roots Library. I'm gonna give you the names of the artists at the end. It was I just wanted to show you the pictures and what was about, and then I can give you all the names, the actual responsibles of these activities. So this library of roots is this project about the food that grows underneath our feet, right? So here, it was like the installation that they did in the market square, and here you will find all the routes that they have listed during the investigation that they did throughout years, right? And it was also this idea how you can make a root library. What was the things that would contain, right? That would have like books, it would have products. How you put that in a certain place? How do you invite people to have access to this information? So what we did here, it's something very traditional, like 50 years ago, like so grandmothers, like if you have a stomach ache or if you have headaches, they would do these things called cataplasma that they would use mud and then different products. So it was kind of a way so you can feed yourself, but not like digesting, but like from the skin contact. So in this activity, we invited people to feed through their feet. We did five different activities during these 3 days, and then the thing that we gave back to the market square is these two interventions in the walls. So this was made by Carlos Alfonso. So it was just like a selection of products, and then it was like this landscape that the artist did with the plastic bags that they would use to give you, you know, your groceries. So it was another way, you know, to use these bags. So we had a couple of lessons in these last two activities that I was talking to you about. The scheduling conflict between the market square's hours and the artist's audience availability made it hard to draw a crowd, right? So the market square normally, if it's actually, you know, for local people, it works from 6 a.m. till noon, from Monday to Friday, right? And then if you're doing an art event, normally it's from Thursday or Friday from 5 p.m. So it would be very hard for us to bring this audience to this scheduling. So it was something that we knew also, and it was also very interested how we can actually understand this difference. If you want to work outside your comfort space, your art space, you have, you know, to understand that it would be hard to have a crowd that normally have different hours, right? It was important for us to have this collaboration between this institution, the institution that was running the market square. They made very easy for us to have these collaborations. I mean, like I was telling you about how difficult was, you know, this scheduling conflict. So they would say, okay, you have an extra hour, but I mean, it wasn't enough, but I mean, we used it. Working together, breaking the routine. So when we wanted to work at the market square, but also we didn't want them to feel uncomfortable in the sense that, okay, I'm working here, right? If and then if you're working, please don't do something that would stop, you know, the time I'm making money, you know, that the time, like I have to take the most out of it. So what we do is, okay, like if you're working, we can have like this trade relation, but at the same time we want to show you something and we want to share something with you. Then 2 years later we continue with this idea of be part of the everyday, right? And then it's undeniable that the neighborhoods, especially like the art district, has transformed, and now we have plenty of workshops that they work different materials, right? So for this event we invited one artist, and he would be like the leader, and then a maker, and she would be also like the leader, and she will help us to spot different workshops around la localidad, right? So the idea was making artists work together with these workshops and then do an exhibition. I will show you photos later, right? So thanks to Andrea, which was the makers, we call them makers, we find this aluminum workshop, and then on the right hand, it was people that they do all kind of things out of cupboard. Then we have a wood workshop with different techniques, and then here in the down the right side is this material called terrazzo, that it was also very used for architectural appliances. And then it was this workshop for textiles. So this is what happened here. This place is Plural. So this was the exhibition. It turns out to be a sculpture exhibition, which was very nice. So this is what the workshop, the terrazzo workshop with the artist did. This is the textile sculpture, and then you can see all these signs here made out of wood and different techniques. That it was kind of something like a parasite. You can see here, this is what they did with the aluminum, and this is one of my favorites here. But this is like a voting poll, like a voting stand, but it was like liquid fluid, so it was like a fluid democracy, I don't know. And then we also, because the purpose of this collaboration was also to show what the localidad has to offer and let the people know about the workshop and the local businesses, right? So we did this material library, so the audience can check what they do on a daily basis. Here I have like a detail of the works that we did here. I wanted to close this journey with actually one of the our very last events, but for me it was like actually the this event that told me, okay, we're doing the right thing, and it was really hard to get here. And it's something that you don't do by yourself, but also like with the work of the artists you're working with. But then the artists, they have to have this context, and you give that context, and then you allow them to, to have access to all the things that you've done. So for me, this project, I mean, it's very important because from this moment I understand that we can actually, that it was actually happening. The Plural would be part of the everyday for the localidad. So as I told you, this arts and cookery meeting, it has transformed, and now it was like this interspecies encounter. And we have this premise, a premise that it was really hard for us to change, because when you apply for grants, I mean, like they expect you to do what you propose, right? But then when we start doing this process, or and we did like this prior investigation, we realized that the premise was a little bit problematic, because we wanted to discuss about cookery, grandparents, grandmother, grandfather. Normally they say, oh, my grandmother, she cooks very good, or my grandfather. But the thing is, like, we don't know the relation of these people with food, right? Because sometimes back in 50 years or something, it wasn't an option, right? So it was a little bit problematic, but it was really nice also how this art collective, they would turn this and make something actually beautiful, right? So it here in this paper that we stick on different places around the localidad, it says se busca abuela cocinera. It was like we were looking for cooking grannies. Another thing is like people. like 60-year-old people, 70-year-old people. They're not necessarily grandmothers. So we knew that, and then we decided, okay, let's see how we can make this work. So these are collective. They decided just to go outside and talk to the neighbors, right? And then we run into these six amazing ladies. There's no like special. There's nothing special about these ladies, rather than just be part of the neighborhood. And they would go to the market square, and they would love to feed their loved ones. I mean, but like, doing this event, it wouldn't give you our bed like the best recipe, the best food ever. It would just give you that there's neighbors around here, and they wanted to say something, and we just wanted to propose this space for them to express themselves through the kitchen, right? This is a 20-minute video. I'm just gonna super speed, and then after 2 or 3 minutes we can start with the questions if you have. So this is Plural here. These are the four ladies here, and then we invite like musicians to play for them. This is the end of the program. It was 3 days. It was actually very exhausting. We we buy all the groceries in the market square. We would go to the places like they trust, or like what where they normally buy things. And it was also very nice to see how the audience, I mean, they like what they saw here. So they were very active part of the realization of this project. Here you can see that they're in the apartment of the ladies. They allowed us to go to their places, to their personal and private spaces. We would do 2 or 3 activities prior to the opening, so we can create a space of trust. So the arts and cookery meeting, it started with try to follow uh, the history behind food, right? And like these recipes that like they have this huge information about where we're coming from, about the land. But then here we I mean, it wasn't about the food, it was the people who ate the food. And coming back to the urban, to understand the city we live in. So that's pretty much it. I don't know if you have questions.
Thank you so much, Juan. Yeah, I mean it's such a pleasure to also get to know more
Mm.
insights about the projects that you have done beyond the conversation that we had in Bogota, sitting in Plural's beautiful space. So I would like to ask a couple of things, and then please, everyone, if you have any question, please also chime in. Just you can just unmute yourself and ask away. So I wanted to ask something about the sustainability and the of the relationship. So, like much of Plural's work depends on building long-term effective relationships, yeah? So, what
Yes.
kind of strategies have you found most effective in sustaining these relationships over time, especially like amidst the practical pressures of running an independent space, for example?
Yeah. Okay, that's a good question. And I mean, like, in terms of how we keep in touch, for instance, let's say the people we're working with, right?
Yeah.
I have to say the kitchen that we have in Plural, it's something that could help us,
Mhm.
because I mean, the kitchen is a place of spontaneity and a place of sharing, right? And then if you have in your agenda things that would put us together. It's very magnetic, to, to say the least, and it's also very cheap to make programs around kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
No, like the installation. I mean, there's no installation. The food is rather cheap here in Colombia. So yeah, that would link us. Actually, one of these ladies, she comes and goes often in Plural, and she's always bringing, I mean, a different food. I mean, like she was, hey, I was in the market square, and I wanted to bring you, like, to bring you this. And it's
Oh,
also very nice because, I mean, like these ladies, they normally they don't have like Instagram or social media, so they don't see when we have like event of or openings. But I mean, at the same time, you seeing these people going back to Plural, even though it has nothing to do with,
mm,
I mean, like with their everyday, it's something that it's very fulfilling.
yes.
And economic wise, to sustain these activities is quite hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have to say that Colombia, their grants program, it's very good. It's easy to access, and then it will give you the chance to apply for 3 or 4 plus years. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Mhm.
about the grants and fundings and yeah, supporting or sustaining the
Mhm.
project. So, I mean, in community-rooted practices, traditional metrics often fall short. Like what are the impacts, like when it's kind of like part of the report that, for example, in Germany or in Berlin, grant system, like, or the European grant, for European grants, one needs to apply. So how do you evaluate whether Plural's presence is truly meaningful in the neighborhood, and what kind of indicators, formal or informal, matters the most to you, and how do you communicate this to the grant providers and whoever that authority is? And is this even, I mean, a requirement maybe from the grants that you
Okay.
receive?
This institution, they ask or they demand how many people went to your event, all the sources that you use to have impact.
Mm,
So I mean, doing this video, for instance, for us was like an indicator.
mm,
So they would say, hey, how many views did you do? Also, we ask people to sign some forms, so it's like kind of a formality. They don't follow the impact that you're doing.
mhm,
And then for us is different, right? So for us, seeing these people coming back and and normally, I mean, like, of course we have an agenda, and then this agenda, it's mainly dictated by the grants we won, and also like these special dates where, I mean, like international crowd, it's coming for the art fair or for the biennial or whatever, right?
yeah,
But like during this period that there's no like events of the grants happening or
mm,
whatever, like we open the space for the people to propose their things, and they always know that they have a place to to do things.
mm,
So when we see that the community we're working with asking you to do something together, that's something that they say to us, hey, this is happening and this is nice. I mean because even though we've been working 5 or 6 years around Barrios Unidos, around the localidad,
mm,
it's clear to us that we don't know. I mean, we can say that we know 20% of what is happening around the localidad, and not just things that we don't focus on. When we do these workshops and artist collaboration,
mm,
if it wasn't for Andrea, we wouldn't know that like this aluminum workshop exists. We wouldn't know that the cupboard workshop exists. That's our indicators.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Does anybody has any question for Juan?
Thank you very much because this is really inspiring, and thank you for sharing not only what Plural does, but all the lessons also. So yeah, I do have a lot of questions.
Mhm.
I think I'll go back to the beginning. I find the books really interesting. I wanted to ask if when you launched the books, do you already have a physical space from Plural, or was it like the first thing you did?
No, I mean, like, Plural was open in 2018, right? And then we did this in 2021, but it was, I mean, the grant that we did these publications with,
Mm.
they wouldn't allow us to, to make this event where people gathering because of the sanitary
Mm,
conditions, right?
okay.
But these books, I mean, we did this launch through webinars. But the beautiful thing about the books is, like, it was also this soil, and then we start to create
Mm,
something from this investigation that we did. So for instance, this was the very first, the launch of the books here, and then you can see some of the content. We didn't know that it was going to be this successful, the books, and then we just have one copy of each book of this. So maybe I'm planning to do this re-editing because it's really nice. So this this is the book that I wanted to talk about. It's about the history of Barrios Unidos, the localidad, the United Neighborhoods, right? So they would collect these postales, how you
mhm,
like postals,
Postcard?
yeah,
Yeah.
postcards, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. I mean, and you can see the history here from the 60s, 70s, 80s. And then the next year we decided to translate the content the content of this book into an exhibition, right?
mm,
So this is the exhibition, and it was talking about, again, about the shared history of Barrios Unidos. And you would see here, I mean, some intervention that the artist did in the some of the facades here. Also, like this artist that they did these facades for plants.
Mhm.
mhm. Juan, and the research behind the books. Yeah, but my next question was, do you still have
Yeah.
some copies? But I know now you have one copy only from each book.
Yeah,
But the investigation, the research behind these books, did you? I don't know. Did you work together with some historiadores? Yeah, historians. I don't know
yeah.
how it's called.
I mean, like, this special book. It was made by these curators whose mainly approach is like historic investigations.
Uh
So
huh.
they're
Yeah.
really well known because of that. I mean, and it was something that we decided to go further with them. So, because, I mean, like, for instance, we didn't know that these Barrios Unidos, it was created by unions, actually, right?
Mm,
So it was like different workers unions that they decided to make their houses in the early 30s and 40s, right? And that was this part. And then also it was this community of Marxist Jewish that they decided to do Barrios Unidos. And then, like, how it developed. So it was also give us information to go with extra activities after we knew the history. But, like, here in the web page, you can see, and then you can download all the publication that we do here. See,
mm.
sadly it's just in Spanish, but I mean, like, the no, you can check that we have many things here. Let me
Oye,
see.
Juan.
Yeah.
And this exhibition that you did from the book, and the other exhibitions from the other like programs of Plural. I think I have two questions that are linked,
Uh-huh.
that come together. And the first one would be like, how is Plural being financed? I know it's through grants, but are there all public grants? Is there like some sponsorship from a private company? And the other question that is linked to that is, how are you paying the artists that do the exhibition and the curators, and how is it all being financed?
Yeah. Okay. So we do different things. I mean, if we have grants, then we pay. With the grants, it's easy for us to pay all the artists and all the people behind it, right? Then, if we don't have grants, we do these collaborations, right? So I mean, like, if there's some people that they wanted to use their space so they can do these book presentations, or like they have like, an specific investigations. I mean, I say, okay, you can use the space. I get to pay like the installments, and I say, and let's say, for instance, okay, for the opening, let's sell some beer. See, and
Mm.
let's try
Mhm,
to
mhm,
take something out of here. I also rent the space for private events.
mhm.
And then I also have like this studio in the second floor that I rent. So it's something that you do on the everyday. I mean, like, try to make the most out of these spaces between grants and work together to make these projects happen.
And the grants you are you're applying
They're
to
from the
is,
Ministry of Culture, and
yeah.
then the city mainly. I mean, I
Uh-huh.
applied for international grants, but it's not that easy. I mean,
I have one last question.
yeah,
That would
yeah,
be,
yeah.
because I come from Quito, I come from Ecuador, and
Hmm.
I get it when you say that gratuity doesn't really translate to access.
Hmm.
Um, After all these years in Plural, what would you say can grant access to people?
That's a really good question. I mean, that's something. So, for instance, I'm gonna give you an example, not from Plural, but something that happened this year. So, in Bogota, the capital of Colombia, it was the first time that we have a biennial, and it was a huge
Mhm.
success. It was a huge success, and it
Yes.
was very, very nice to see that people, like, they're doing these huge lines to go inside and see what was happening there. So, I mean, even though it's for free, the way you communicate, I mean, the way you engage, I don't know, like with art influencers, or the way you approach the community, if you're working with the community, that's the key,
Mm.
right? I mean, like, the marketing in the arts, it's, I don't know, sometimes I feel like you tend to fight or to argue with these marketing techniques or whatever, but I can see it's very important. And then, like, you keep, your social media active and happening, right? And then, if you're working with the community, make sure that you have 2 or 3 meetings before the opening.
Mhm.
And even though it doesn't guarantee, I mean, and it has to be something that you do at least 2 or 3 years in a row, right? So, for
Mm.
instance, this I wanted to show you this is the information of the people that does this exhibition. So, Tercer Espacio, it's something that I do every year in the beginning of the year. So I try to have these standard dates and way of working, so people know that in Plural, at the beginning of the year, they would expect the arts and community focused projects. And then the arts and cookery meeting is in the middle, like between May and June. So yeah, I mean, like the audience and the art workers, they would know that that Plural is doing the arts and cookery meeting in May and June, right? And and then I mean, we like if I standardize this, I think like people would have in their minds and they would schedule for these events.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Juan. One thing I would like to add about the what gives the excess. I think
Hmm.
also about how you also approach your audience and also
Hmm.
approach your team. I mean, the care is actually very much present. And
Hmm.
a few days ago, I gave a lecture about the ecologies of care, that how do you actually show care? I mean, it's not an add-on, for example, but it's
Hmm.
a gesture,
Yeah.
that this is something very intangible. The first day when I went to Plural with Amy, on the and the in the entry, you wrote down the name of the not only the artist and the curator, but also who were part of the exhibition making or the installation or the whole team. So this is something is not unfortunately very much visible in the art. Like if it's only the artists and the curators, but there is a whole team behind this production whose contribution is very, very much also
Hmm.
needed and required. And without that, this would not have happened. So this very, maybe it might look a very tiny gesture, but I think like there are so many these little gestures of kindness, of care,
Mm,
and how you approach your community, how you approach your audience, and this is very much present in Plural's activities, in my perspective, as an
Hmm.
outsider, as someone who is not from there, and the warmth. A few days ago, I was talking to someone and about the art intensive in Bogota, that what was so special about it, and I said the warmth actually in the cultural scene among people, and also in your kitchen, the way the kitchen is also set up, it's a such cozy, warm, and inviting space that you have created. And I think this space designing, it's not only about like the materiality of it, right? So I think in design there's this approach that when something is well designed, it doesn't feel like it's quote unquote designed, but it feels like
Hmm.
very natural, that this is how it should be.
mm,
But I think like this is what, like, my experience in Plural, as someone who had no idea about Plural beforehand, but this was my impression, like when I walk into the space, and then later we came with all the participants and had this really shared very horizontal conversation. And so yeah, and this is very, very much, this is how it should be, in my opinion,
Hmm.
because when we open up our doors to the public, so we are serving to the public, and the warmth and the welcoming, the how we make them feel invited in our space. So that takes a lot of care and active effort. So it's not only about
Yeah.
talking about it, but also designing that space, that warmth, that care. So I think you guys are doing a great job in there. And yeah, so kudos to that.
Th- Thank you very much. Thank you very much. At the beginning in 2017, someone would ask me that this would happen,
Yeah,
I wouldn't bet on it.
yeah,
So it's also keeping your space
yeah.
open for information and open for new
mm,
ideas. Make sure that you understand what it's happening, and I keep working on that. Like if it makes sense, then keep doing it, and be sure that like these next people, because I mean the artists, the art workers, the curators we're working with, I mean, like we don't work with them 2 years straight. I mean, we kind of do, but also I mean we during the history of Plural, we've been working with 300 plus art workers, right? and it's not something that it will keep in their minds, but it's also something that we have to provide so they can understand what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other question?
Yeah, hi, Juan, I'm Nuria, and I'm
Hello?
an artist, and I want to ask, how do you work with the artists? Do they go one day and then they start to be part of the community, like they reach you online, they go in person, you look for artists too? It's also, you said you have all these little workshops. Do the
Yeah.
artists can use those spaces?
Thank you for asking. In Plural, right now, I'm more the founder and the director. I work in these administration things mainly, but I also work together with the curators, right? So everything kind of starts with the network that you've been creating during these years of my career and the curator's career. And then during these workshops, there's a lot of people who say, hey, I didn't know Plural, this is very interesting, I know this person that they work with this or that, so we start engaging with this, right? So for instance, one of the arts and cookery meeting, we had the chance to invite this art collective from Peru, and it was actually, we know these people because Andrea, who was the curator back then, she was invited to do this project in Peru, and she said, hey, maybe if we have the chance, we can actually work with these people, and it would be, and they would fit perfectly for the arts and cookery meeting. So it's pretty much organic. And then we have like the exhibition space and the kitchen for reaching these new people, these new art workers that we haven't worked with them. Yeah, I mean, and we also very active in the art scene. We would go to all the different shows. I mean, like, we know our colleagues, we know what we're doing. So, for instance, if an artist work with us in the arts and cookery meeting, there's a chance that they will continue their research in some other places, and then we know what they're doing. So, yeah.
Thank you, Juan. Any other question?
Hi,
Um,
Juan.
yeah.
Hi, it's Ricardo.
Hello.
Hey, I was interested about the resistance of the people. Did you encounter any kind of like, I don't want to have we do this to do with this project is to close, and why, if it happened?
Okay, so I mean, like, I want to give all the credits for this last project that we did to to the collective, right? Because going out there and say, hey, I work with the arts, I want to do something with you, that's something that is not very easy to do, right? So that's why you will need at least, I mean, they used at least 60 days to do this approach to the people. And of course, at the very beginning, if it was okay, like some reluctance, because, like, I mean, like, why? I'm just a normal person walking by, and then you're telling me that you want to work with me, right? But it was like this first approach, it was like problematic somehow, but then the way you develop this relationship, it was the key. We invited them to get to know Plural, and then they would invite us to know their apartments, and know about them and like their family and everything. It was actually really nice how this relationship with these ladies and Plural and the artists turns out. So I would say it was really easy. I mean, it was fluid.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. It's
No,
very
thank you.
nice. And when it's about cooking, I'm always in it. I'm Italian, so
Yeah, of
I
course.
like it. No, I really like the idea, and in my experience, it's really can sound very simple, but it's a moment of sharing that
Yeah.
really allows to people that have nothing to do with what you're showing for itself to access. So it's nice to see that it's not only in one place, but in very different culture it works, and I really like this approach of yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo. Yeah, I wanted to add you something here. I mean, like these ladies, some of them, they have this notebook of annotations. It was their inheritance of their grandmothers giving you like these recipes, right? I mean, and it's not like it's gonna be like a groundbreaking recipe. It's not. They're sharing their, I mean, their feelings towards their grandparents and their loved ones. So it was super nice.
I have a one question.
Mhm.
Hi.
Hello.
Um, just I was thinking about the impact or the results of this engagement of the community, and
Mhm.
I suppose obviously you have to probably kind of provide or show that because of applying for new grants and so on. But I was
Mhm.
thinking, I don't know, in what ways maybe are there any also tangible ways to investigate this impact and this engagement. I mean, the result of the engagement, like for
Yeah,
example, book with the experience of the participants in different projects, or I don't know.
yeah, I think is it Eva?
Eva, yes. Sorry, I forgot.
Okay, I don't know if I can answer to that because I mean I should be thorough and keep these numbers or these indicators. I would say because like I don't have like this background of anthropology that would give me leads to the impact that we're doing here. I allow myself and the people we're working with just to go with their natural feelings and see what was happening here, right? I have to say it felt good, and it felt like when you discuss with the artists, with the art workers that you're working, and then you see how the thing that we're doing felt different, and it was something that actually it was making an impact. We decided, I mean, like we were filling all these requirements for the grants, and it was just about numbers and numbers and numbers and numbers. But for us it was different. So for like I remember, so we paid these ladies like, hey, I mean, you're working with us, and then you get paid for your time and your patience and for sharing with us, right? And then we did like at this WhatsApp group. One of these ladies said that she bought a blender with this money, and it was like we were discussing among artists, like the Ministry of Culture, like they have no idea how useful their money was, so they could like this money, it turns out into a blender, right? Yeah, I mean, I wish I could have numbers. I wish I could have more indicators, but I don't. Maybe in the near future, uh, I would have more. Yeah,
For
yeah,
me,
yeah, yeah.
it's not so much about numbers, but also like it's interesting to, yeah, to investigate this
Yeah.
impact, right? And uh, yeah, what came to my mind is to do like a booklet with the experiences of the
Mm-hmm.
participants from
Okay.
also from the outside who come in and from the ones that are in the, yeah, in the
Yeah.
events, all of that.
Okay.
So,
Something I wanted to have for, but I couldn't. I mean, like I run out of time. Is to have like the translation in English for these videos that we're showing. Actually, that video, it sums up really good what we did there. So
mhm.
maybe when I have time, I will put you, and then I will let you know that you have
No,
the
I
English
speak
subtitles.
Spanish, so it's okay.
Ah, well,
I speak Spanish. I
that
will.
that super nice. I mean, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like these guys that they did this, they're
Mm.
amazing. They're parts of this theater and scenic arts masters, and they're very good in this idea of social engaged art.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you. I will look.
Okay. Mhm.
Thank you. I have one. Maybe we can also wrap up slowly. I because I know Juan, you have to go somewhere,
Yeah.
and so one last question: that when you are working with communities, when do you decide to step back and as cultural workers, as curators, as artists,
Mhm.
as organizers? Is was there any situation or any moment that you felt like, okay, this is how we, you know, idealized the project or the concept, and when you are going to work with the community and you feel like, okay, this might not really translate in practice how we conceived it. So when do you decide to step back and lead the community and let the community to take the lead maybe in terms of like implementation?
Okay, so maybe from the beginning. So what we do is do these meetings before. So we use the kitchen in Plural to like, for instance, the activities that we did with the workshops and the artists, they didn't know before, right? So we open the kitchen, so we invite to coffee, tea, some biscuits, and then like get them to know, like we put the rules here. Most of these rules are linked to institutional requirements. So hey, please make sure that you send your invoice this way or whatever. But then we make it happen like fun or something. And then we do these check-ins often, like every 10 days or every 15 days. So we try to have at least 45 days of, from the point of these people getting to know each other, like the community we're working with getting to know each other, and then the point that we're gonna show the opening, whether it's an exhibition or an open event or whatever, that we want to have time so they can know each other. And then in the chickens we see where it's going through. And actually in our experience, we don't have control very often, because like they open our eyes in things that I mean, we wouldn't imagine. I used to be a control freak, not anymore, so it's easy for me to let this idea of control very easily.
Thank you so much. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it also shows in the project that how fluid and organic it is, and also how you also design the space. I'm really mesmerized with the space that you have created.
Mhm.
And I think one thing is very important, like one of the takeaways, that when you started, you did not know that this is the place where you are going to be arriving. And
Mhm.
so like in the past, we also, I think last month we had a conversation with one collective from Bangladesh called Brihatto Foundation. And the
Mhm.
founders and the curators, they were talking about, well, Brihatto started with a cup of tea and with over a cup of coffee. And we did not have any agenda. We did not have any business plan. We did not have really anything, but we had that reciprocity in our conversation. We had that friendship, and we just started.
Mhm.
And how beautifully it has grown over time, and also so as Plural, that how beautifully you have created and cultivated your community approaches, and also what you were saying, that for the Ministry of Culture, maybe if this is useful or not, but it is so much more useful than the numbers and the impacts that they typically ask for, because
Mhm.
it is impacting like people's life, but not really in a NGO agenda ways that how
Mhm.
oftentimes like the grants ask for. And but it's much more, yeah, much more meaningful, I think. Like it's about life at the end.
Yeah.
And I always just believe in this, that like project comes and goes, but relationship stays. I think this is the relationship that you are cultivating with the with your immediate community and also extended community. That's a beautiful work you and the team are doing. So congratulations, and I look forward to know much more about all the updates and everything that Plural is going to make happen. And yeah, so what's your plan for next year? Maybe we can close with that because we are closing 2025
Yeah.
and 26 is coming. And what's Plural's plan for next year?
Oof, that's a good question. Actually, I hope I don't ruin the surprise, but right now I'm interested in migrants community. So I'm talking to these artists from France and Spain that they're doing this project. It's called Cocina Migrante, Migrant Cuisine. So I don't know if you know guys, but like people from Cuba, from Nicaragua, and even people from Asia, they start their journey to the USA from Colombia, right? So I mean, like they have to cross this dense, very dangerous jungle. So and migrants from Venezuela, they start to did their journey earlier. They come from Venezuela and they have to cross whole Colombia to come here. And the geography in Colombia, it's really hard because like we have the mountain belts that it divides in three, so you have to go up and down three times. So that's really hard. So what they did here is like they would do in one of these main well-known spots of migration, they would set up a food truck and then just provide food for the migrants, right? So they continue their journey. So we want to translate that idea in Plural and see if we can actually do this, like how can be seen this kind of work in the cities. I'm not giving you more details, but yeah, I'm working with them. Hopefully that's gonna happen in the first semester, and that's pretty much it. Then we have to wait for grants and see what's going on.
Yeah. Sounds very exciting, Juan. I'm very excited for you and Plural.
Thank you very much.
Well, on that note, thank you so much, Juan, for your time and sharing your stories about Plural and
Mhm.
your community. And also, thank you everyone for joining. So, I wish you all the very best, Juan. And yeah, we will be in touch and get to know each other's work yeah, more, I don't know, in details maybe. Okay, great. Have a lovely
Okay.
rest of the day and take care and talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Okay. Thank you very much to everyone to be here. Bye bye.